Hey, class. This week they're going to be the podcast lecture is going to cover two topics. The first topic is we're going to go back to my hero U.S. Grant, and you're going to examine. And I'm going to talk about his biggest setback of the war, which was the Battle of Shiloh. It happened in April 1862, right about the time that McClellan was sailing or shipping his troops south to the Peninsula Campaign. Let me remind you of what I said in class on Tuesday, that there's no coordination between the Eastern and Western theater at this point. I mean, Lincoln's aware of what's going on. There's a chief of staff that's aware, but McClellan and Grant aren't working together. They're not planning together. They're not moving in tandem, anything of the sort. The kind of overall coordination of the Union Army won't happen for 2 more years, and that's the spring of 1864, when Grant is moved to the east and he takes overall command of the Union Army. So what you're looking at and what you're hearing about with the Shiloh campaign, like I said before, it's happening at the same time the Peninsula campaign's kicking off, but they're not coordinated actions. The next podcast, or the second half of the podcast today, I want to talk about my own work, and that is the attempt by the French Emperor Napoleon III to install a king in Mexico, a guy by the name of Maximilian of Austria. You know, I wouldn't take notes on that yet. I explained it in the podcast. It's part of this bigger story that I talked about in my lecture yesterday, that the 1860s was a period globally of the war of democracy versus monarchy, democracy versus aristocracy. And one of the key moments in that conflict, that global conflict, was when the French Emperor Napoleon III tried to plug in the king into Mexico. He used the chaos of the U.S. Civil War to try to reestablish a French presence in Mexico by establishing a puppet, Maximilian of Austria, in Mexico City. It fails miserably. So I want to talk about that aspect of the Civil War, which is the aspect that I worked on in my own scholarship. So that's my brief intro to the podcast for this week. You'll go back to the Western campaign and you'll follow U.S. Grant to Shiloh in the action there. And then we'll go down to Mexico, into Mexico City, and see the shenanigans of the French Emperor as he tries to plug in a king in Mexico City.